In the time it has taken you to watch this opening sequence, another 3 British businesses have just been ransacked. This isn't a spike, it is saturation. 530,643. That is the number of shoplifting offences recorded in a single year across England and Wales. That translates to 3 thefts every single minute, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But these aren't just numbers on a Home Office spreadsheet. They are the sound of shutters coming down permanently on your local high street. We are witnessing the total collapse of deterrence, where fear has quietly changed sides, moving from the criminal to the shopkeeper. Today, we look past the petty crime label at the institutional lid being kept on the lawless transformation of Britain's towns.
Let's look at the data. In London alone, retail theft has surged by over 40% in just 12 months. But don't make the mistake of thinking this is just a hungry person stealing a sandwich. This is organised retail crime. These are groups moving with precision, using lookouts, getaway vehicles, and social media to coordinate hits. They know the response times. They know the £200 threshold for prosecution. They understand the exact limits of an enforcement system stretched so thin it has officially snapped. Officers admit privately that calls are stacking faster than units can respond. When crime operates in plain sight without fear of consequence, control disappears. What remains is a cycle of confidence crime, where the criminal knows the state has essentially surrendered the ground.
This pressure doesn't stay in the aisles, it spills directly into your wallet. Retail crime is now draining £4.2 billion every year from the UK economy. That is £2.2 billion in direct losses, and another £1.8 billion poured into guards, reinforced doors, and body cameras for 19-year-old shelf stackers. Here is the hard truth. That money doesn't vanish. It is recovered quietly, item by item, from your pocket. Prices rise not just because of inflation, but because of theft. This is a hidden security tax passed on to every law-abiding citizen. While the media talks about a recovering economy, 17,000 independent shops are projected to close by 2025. We are seeing the creation of retail deserts, where you can't buy fresh food or pick up a prescription, because the risk of staying open is simply too high.
The high street was once the heart of our community. When you board up that heart, the community stops beating. The state calls this low level, but there is no such thing as low-level crime when it happens 500,000 times a year. To the viewers who stayed, you see the plywood, you see the security guards at the door of your local chemist. My promise to you is to keep documenting the decline that the mainstream cameras refuse to broadcast. We confirm that the broken windows theory is no longer a theory in Britain. It is our current reality. A country that forgets how to defend the small things will eventually lose the big ones. The shutters are coming down, and the silence from Westminster is deafening.
While the families of Crowborough were asleep on Wednesday night, the buses were rolling in. No community consultation, no early warning. At 3:30 a.m., under the cover of darkness, over 300 unvetted men were moved into a local military training camp. This is the plain, painful truth of Britain today. Your government is moving in the middle of the night because they know they have lost the consent of the people. But the fury in Sussex isn't just about housing. It's about a deeper, more disturbing allegation of state deception. As thousands descend on Crowborough, a new and explosive question is being asked on the streets. Who exactly is being vetted and who is being hidden? Today, we look past the official slogans at the institutional lid being kept on the facts of Britain's rural transformation.
Let's look at the data. Crowborough is a rural community with limited travel links and overstretched services.
Residents like Phil, who has lived next to the camp for 15 years, are now witnessing a 29% spike in local anxiety. Average housing prices are already feeling the devaluation effect. The Home Office admits they know local people don't want these facilities, but they are doubling down, calling it a deterrent. But what is the cost to the social fabric? When you import hundreds of undocumented individuals into a community that never voted for it, you haven't solved a crisis, you've relocated it. The national uprising we are seeing in 15 different cities is a direct response to a system that treats British communities as nothing more than postcodes for unverified arrivals.
This leads us to the most controversial allegation of all. On the front lines of these protests, a staggering theory has taken root among the public, that the vetting system has failed so completely that unverified individuals are being utilised in roles of authority. While the Prime Minister speaks of a legal mind, the public sees a political mind that refuses to legislate against what they call an illegal invasion. The allegation that unvetted arrivals are being hidden within state structures, even under the guise of enforcement attire, is a symptom of a government that has lost all credibility. If the Home Office can move 300 men in the dead of night without a single ID being verified, the public's curiosity about who is really managing our streets is not prejudice, it is a demand for accountability. This isn't an administrative error, it is a systemic choice to prioritise secrecy over the safety of our daughters and the integrity of our borders.
The fire of discontent that started in the cities has now reached the heart of rural Britain. The government thinks that by moving in the night and ignoring the roars of the thousand, the anger will vanish. They are wrong. You cannot build a new model on the ruins of public trust. To those who stayed for the truth, you see the gates swinging open while the community is kept in the dark. Our promise to you is to keep tracking the coaches they won't announce and the vetting failures they'd rather you didn't hear about. We confirm that Crowborough is just the beginning. The British public is calling time on being ignored.
Contractor GPs working for the Home Office have been offered £135,000 a year, that's more than an average GP in the NHS works, in order to provide first-class treatment for illegal migrants. So essentially, illegal migrants going right to the front of the queue on healthcare.
They called it an administrative detail, a contracting footnote buried in a Home Office brief. But the moment the public discovered that private GPs were being hired at £135,000 a year to treat illegal migrants, while millions of Britons wait weeks just to see an NHS doctor, the reaction was immediate and volcanic. What should have been a quiet weekend headline erupted into a national reckoning. This story has none of the slow burn Westminster is used to. It detonated on impact, because it strikes at Britain's most sensitive nerve, the belief that those who follow the rules are being edged aside by those who do not. And as NHS waiting rooms overflow and GP surgeries buckle, this scandal has become a symbol, not of bureaucratic failure, but of a system that no longer seems to put its own people first. Tonight, one question reverberates across the country. How did we become a nation where illegal entrants receive premium care while taxpayers wait in corridors?
The details are now painfully clear. Contractors working for the Home Office, unable to pull NHS doctors into already collapsing hospitals, turned to the private sector. The result, premium rate doctors earning more than many senior consultants inside a service that millions rely on. And the atmosphere is unmistakable. A pensioner sits quietly, waiting longer than she can tolerate, but refusing to complain. A mother glances at the clock as her child's fever rises, wondering whether the GP will call back at all. A cancer patient rehearses questions because a 10-minute appointment is all they can hope for. These are the people who woke up to see that detention centres, designed for individuals entering Britain illegally, have access to medical staff paid at rates few NHS communities can dream of, and they are asking why. Across Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, Cardiff, the sentiment is the same.
If money exists for premium care, why doesn't it exist for us? The public mood was already strained. Record numbers of foreign offenders remain in the UK after completing sentences because deportations have stalled. Channel crossings continue despite government promises of control. The asylum backlog weighs heavily on local councils, already running crisis budgets. Into this environment, the news of 135k migrant centre GP contracts landed like a match dropped in a drought.
I think there's been a blurring, within the British state of what should be prioritised, and I think it is completely logical and common sense to say that British citizens should get priority over non-citizens. I'm not saying that people shouldn't get healthcare, absolutely, but it shouldn't cost this much.
This moment of collective frustration is not happening in isolation. It reflects a deeper national anxiety, the fear that Britain's social contract, the promise that taxpayers would be protected by the services they fund, is fracturing. Many Britons now fear that the system responds more quickly and compassionately to those entering illegally than to families who have lived, worked and paid taxes here for decades. The emotional force of this shift cannot be overstated. It is not merely anger, it is a sense of abandonment. And abandonment, once felt, is very difficult for any government to reverse.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer entered office promising a return to competence. His Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has pushed through the toughest asylum reforms in a generation, from temporary refugee status to restricted family reunification and new agreements with Angola and Namibia to accelerate deportations. Yet the reality on the ground is biting. Voters have very little patience left. Downing Street insists the Home Office did not directly pay for these GP contacts, but that argument collapses under the weight of public perception. People do not care who wrote the invoice. They care that the NHS, the service they fund, rely on and believe in, is crumbling before their eyes, while apparently endless resources are found elsewhere. This controversy strikes at a deeper truth. Britain is living through a moment where faith in public services is evaporating. Police response times stretch longer each year, housing lists contract, council budgets collapse, and now the NHS, once a symbol of British pride, is seen by many as a system drifting further and further out of reach.
The political stakes are enormous. Starmer cannot allow the public to believe that government priorities favour illegal entrants over citizens. If he loses control of this narrative, he risks losing control of the national mood entirely. The government's challenge is now existential. It must convince voters not only that reforms are happening, but that they will produce visible, measurable improvements in daily life. Without that, every new policy, no matter how well designed, will be viewed through a lens of distrust. Britain is no longer debating statistics, it is debating lived experience, and lived experience is winning.
Illegal migration has ceased to be a distant policy issue. It now sits at the heart of Britain's social fabric, shaping conversations about safety, fairness, identity, and national confidence. Across the UK, tensions have escalated. Protests erupt outside migrant accommodation sites. Residents feel ignored. Councils whisper they cannot cope. NHS leaders warn that winter pressures could push the system beyond resilience. The anger bubbling beneath the surface is not abstract, it is personal. Many Britons are not demanding luxury, privilege, or special treatment. They want what they were promised, a functional health system. When they see six-figure salaries offered to treat illegal migrants, while their own elderly relatives face delays stretching into months, it creates an explosive emotional disconnect. Officials argue that detention centre healthcare is a legal requirement, that detainees cannot simply be left without treatment. That much is true, but the nation is not debating legality, it is debating priority. To millions, it now appears that the state moves fastest when the beneficiary is a migrant, and slowest when the beneficiary is a citizen. Whether that perception is fair or not no longer matters. It is becoming the dominant national narrative.
The scandal is no longer about GP contracts. It is about a country asking whether its institutions are still capable of defending the principle that those who contribute the most should fall to the front, not the back of the queue. Britain stands at a crossroads. The NHS is overstretched, the asylum system is overwhelmed, public trust is in freefall, and the patience of ordinary citizens, the very backbone of the nation, is wearing dangerously thin. So Westminster must confront the question now echoing from every corner of the UK. If Britain cannot guarantee fair treatment for its own people, Then who exactly is this system built for?